Hello everyone! Welcome to our channel. Our lesson for today is all about experimental probability. Let us read the given scenario. It is Sheila's 11th birthday and she celebrates it with her friends in their subdivision. She went home with 100 pieces of sweet treats in her basket. She has 10 bubble gums, 20 mint candies, 35 strawberry candies, 25 gummy bears, and 10 coffee candies. Her sister took one from her basket. What is the chance that her sister got a bubble gum? When we are dealing with chances in math, we deal with probability. So dito sa given problem natin, there are 100 pieces of candies in all. At 10 pieces dito ay bubble gums. So, therefore, Sheila's sister has a 10 out of 100 chances of getting a bubble gum. In real life, whenever we do an experiment, two things can happen. It's either the one that we expect or the one that we do not. When the result is what we expected, then it is a favorable outcome. Let's have another example. Celine tossed 2 dice. What is the probability of getting boxcars? When we say boxcars, dapat parehong 6 yung mag-appear dun sa dalawang dice na itotoss ni Celine. When 2 dice are tossed, there are 36 possible outcomes. Now, the following are the possible outcomes. Yan. For the favorable outcomes, there is only one possibility na mag-a-appear ang dalawang 6. So, kung mapapansin nyo, isang pair lang yung may dalawang 6. In order to find the probability, this is our formula. P is equal to favorable outcomes over total possible outcomes. Sa given problem natin, yung favorable outcomes natin ay isa lang kasi once lang pwede mag-appear ang dalawang 6 kapag nag-toss ka ng dalawang dice. Out of 36 total possible outcomes. So therefore, the probability of getting boxcars is 1 over 36. Let us discuss experimental probability. When we say experimental probability, it is the ratio between the number of times the event occurs and the total number of trials. Let's have more examples para mas maintindihan. Example number 1. A coin is tossed 60 times. A head appeared 27 times. Find the experimental probability of getting heads. Ngayon, isolve natin. This is the solution. Meron tayong formula for that, which is the number of times the head appeared over the total number of trials. Sa given problem natin, 27 times nag-appeared ang head out of 60 total number of trials. So therefore, it is 27 over 60. Ngayon, ang 27 over 60 ay hindi pa naka-simplified form. When we say hindi pa naka-simplified form, hindi pa siya naka-lowest term. So, merong greatest common factor ang 27 and 60 at yun ang ipang-divide natin sa kanila para malaman natin kung ano ang lowest term nito. Ang greatest common factor ng 27 and 60 ay 3. So, we're going to divide 27 by 3 and 60 by 3 as well. So, therefore, the lowest term for this is 9 over 20. Therefore, the experimental probability of getting a head is 9 over 20. Example number 2. A bag contains 10 red marbles, 8 yellow marbles, and 2 black marbles. Roma took a marble and returned it. After 10 trials, a red marble picked 6 times. Find the experimental probability of getting a red marble. Now let's find the probability. Number of times the red marble was picked over the total number of trials. Dun sa problem natin, 6 times nakuha ni Roma ang red marble out of 10. So 6 over 10 is not in simplified form yet. Therefore, we're going to find its lowest term pa. Ang greatest common factor ng 6 at 10 ay 2. So, i-divide natin ang 6 at 10 by 2, which is equal to 3 over 5. Therefore, the experimental probability of getting a red marble is 3 over 5. Example number 3. The table shows the results of a card experiment. Each time a card was picked, it was returned to the bag. This is the table. Yung first column ay outcome or the colors, which are blue, green, and red. And yung second column naman ay ang corresponding number of times na na-picked sila. Now let's answer the following questions. What is the experimental probability of picking a blue card? Now to get or to know the probability of picking a blue card, we're going to find the number of times the blue card was picked over the total number of trials. So as you can see dun sa table, 27 times nag-appear or na-picked ang blue out of course, to know the total number of trials, we should add the numbers. So 27 plus 15 plus 8 equals, so that's equal to 50. Ngayon, ang 27 over 50 ay naka-lowest term na dahil ang greatest common factor nila ay 1 na lang. So kapag 1 na lang ang greatest common factor, ibig sabihin, yung given fraction ay naka-lowest term na. Now therefore, the experimental probability of picking a blue card is 27 over 50. Now, what is the experimental probability of picking a red card? So, kaya naman, kailangan alam natin yung number of times the red was picked over the total number of trials. So, syempre, based din sa table, ang number of times na na-picked ang red ay 8 out of, so of course, we need to add all the numbers again, which is equal to 50. So, ngayon, ang 8 over 50 ay hindi pa naka-lowest term kasi hindi 1 ang greatest common factor nila. Ang greatest common factor nila ay 2. So, we're going to divide 8 and 50 by 2, which is equal to 4 over 25. Therefore, the experimental probability of picking a red card is 4 over 25. For the next one, what is the experimental probability of picking a green card? So this time, we need to know the number of times a green card was picked over the total number of trials. Based dun sa table, ang number of times the green was picked ay equal to 15 over, so i-add pa rin yan. So that's equal to 50 pa rin, of course. Now, yung 15 over 50 ay hindi pa rin naka-lowest term because hindi 1 ang kanilang greatest common factor. Their greatest common factor is 5. So therefore, we need to divide 15 and 50 by 5, which is equal to 3 over 10. Now, the answer is, the experimental probability of picking a green card is 3 over 10. Example number 4. A die is tossed. What is the probability of getting a number 3? Para malaman natin ang probability of getting a number 3, we should use this. Number of times 3 appeared over the total possible outcomes. Ito yung possible outcomes natin kapag nag-toss tayo ng isang die. Numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now, based dun sa outcomes, ilang beses nag-appear ang number 3? Yan. So, once lang. Out of 6 total possible outcomes. Now, therefore, the probability of getting a number 3 is equal to 1 over 6. So, ang 1 over 6 ay naka-lowest term na. So, that is our final answer. Now, let's find the probability of getting an even number. So, ano nga ba ang even number? When we say even number, yun yung number na exactly divisible by 2. So, kapag dinivide natin siya by 2, walang remainder. We're going to use this. Number of times an even number appeared over the total possible outcomes. Ang outcomes pa rin natin, syempre, yung numbers 1 to 6. Now, let's identify ano-ano nga ba ang even numbers dito. So, ang mga even numbers dito ay 2, 4, and 6. So, ilan lahat ang even numbers? So, there are 3 even numbers out of 6 total possible outcomes. Ang 3 over 6 ay hindi pa naka-lowest term dahil ang greatest common factor nila ay 3. So, therefore, we're going to divide them by 3, which is equal to 1 over 2. Therefore, the probability of getting an even number is 1 over 2. Now, what is the probability of getting a number 7? So, we need to know the number of times a 7 appeared over the total possible outcomes. Same outcomes pa rin tayo, yung numbers 1 to 6. Now, so kung mapapansin nyo, walang number 7 dito dahil yung numbers lang naman sa dice ay 1 to 6 lang. So, ibig sabihin, yung number of times a number 7 appeared ay 0 out of 6. So, 0 divided by 6 is equal to 0. Therefore, the probability of getting a number 7 is 0. So, walang chance na makakuha tayo ng number 7 kapag nag-toss tayo ng isang die. Next, let's find the probability of getting an odd number. So, ang odd number naman ay yung mga numbers na hindi exactly divisible by 2. So, kapag dinivide natin sila by 2, may remainder. Now, we should know the number of times an odd number appeared over the total possible outcomes. Same outcomes pa rin, numbers 1 to 6. Ngayon, i-identify natin ano-ano nga ba ang odd numbers dito. So, ang odd numbers dito ay 1, 3, and 5. So, ilan lahat sila? There are 3 odd numbers out of the total 6 total possible outcomes. Ngayon, ang 3 over 6 ay pwede pa nating i-lowest term dahil ang greatest common factor ng 3 at 6 ay 3. So, we're going to divide 3 and 6 by 3, which is equal to 1 over 2. Therefore, the probability of getting an odd number is 1 over 2. Now, what is the probability of getting a prime number? So, ano naman ang prime number? Pag sinabi nating prime number, ang factors niya ay dalawa lang. It's 1 and then yung sarili niya. Okay, now, let's find the number of times a prime number appeared over the total possible outcomes. Same outcomes. Ngayon, i-identify natin ano-ano nga ba dito ang prime number? Yung factors ay dalawa lang. So, yung first prime number natin ay 1. Dahil ang factor niya ay 1 times 1 lang. So, walang ibang factors ng 1, kundi 1 times 1. Another one is 2. So, ang factors lang ng 2 ay 1 times 2 or vice versa. So, same number lang naman yon. So, in short, 2 factors lang din ang meron ng 2. Next, number 3, ang factors niya ay 1 times 3 or 3 times 1. So, dalawa lang din yon. Another one is 5. So, 5 times 1 or 1 times 5. So, 2 factors lang yon. So, there are how many prime numbers? There are 4 prime numbers out of 6 total possible outcomes. Ngayon, ng 4 over 6, we need to find its lowest term pa because ang greatest common factor ng 4 and 6 ay 2. So, we need to divide 4 and 6 by 2, which is equal to 2 over 3. Therefore, the probability of getting a prime number is 2 over 3. Example number 5. 2 dice are rolled 10 times and the total numbers of dots are added up. So, eto yung mga sum ng total numbers of dots sa dalawang dice na na-roll ng 10 beses. Let's answer the following questions. What is the experimental probability that the sum is greater than 6? So, we should know the number of times a number greater than 6 appeared over the total possible outcomes. So, identify muna natin kung ano-ano yung mga numbers na mas mataas kesa sa 6. Ang mga numbers na ito ay 7, 12, 9, 10, 7, and 8. So, ilan lahat yung mga numbers na mas mataas kesa sa 6? So, there are 6 out of 10. Ngayon, ang 6 over 10 ay hindi pa naka-lowest term. So, ang greatest common factor ng 6 at 10 ay 2. So, we're going to divide both of them by 2, which is equal to 3 over 5. Therefore, the probability that the sum is greater than 6 is equal to 3 over 5. Next question. What is the experimental probability that the faces with 3 and 2 dots appear? So we should know the number of times a 3 and 2 dots appeared over the total possible outcomes. So kapag 3 at 2 yung dots na nag-appear dun sa dalawang dice, yung sum nila is equal to 5 because 3 plus 2 is equal to 5. So titingnan natin dito sa given numbers kung ilan ba ang 5 dito. Now let's count. 1, 2. Ibig sabihin, there are 2 number of times a 3 and 2 dots appeared out of 10 total possible outcomes. Now, ang 2 over 10 ay hindi pa nakasimplified form. Their greatest common factor is 2. So, we need to divide 2 and 10 by 2, which is equal to 1 over 5. Therefore, the experimental probability that the faces with 3 and 2 dots appear is equal to 1 over 5. Next, what is the experimental probability that the sum is an even number? So again, pag sinabing even number, ang number na ito ay exactly divisible by 2. Now we should know the number of times an even number appeared over the total possible outcomes. Ngayon, i-identify muna natin dito sa given kung ano-ano ba yung mga even numbers dito. So, ito ay 6, 12, 2, 10, and 8. So, ilan ang even numbers ngayon? There are 5 even numbers out of 10 total possible outcomes. Ang 5 over 10 ay hindi pa naka-lowest term because their greatest common factor is equal to 5. So, we need to divide 5 and 10 by 5, which is equal to 1 over 2. Therefore, the experimental probability that the sum is an even number is equal to 1 over 2. Next, what is the experimental probability that the sum is an odd number? Now again, when we say odd number, yung number na yon ay hindi exactly divisible by 2. So we need to know the number of times an odd number appeared and the total possible outcomes. So i-identify muna natin kung ano-ano ba ang mga odd numbers dito. At ang mga odd numbers na ito ay 7, 5, 9, 5, and 7. So ilan ang odd numbers? There are 5 odd numbers out of 10 total possible outcomes. At ang 5 over 10 ay hindi nga naka-lowest term pa because ang greatest common factor ng 5 at 10 ay 5. So we're going to divide both of them, which is equal to 1 over 2. Therefore, the experimental probability that the sum is an odd number is equal to 1 over 2. Now, what is the experimental probability that the sum is 5? So we should know the number of times a number 5 appeared out of the total possible outcomes. Bibilangin lang natin kung ilan ang 5 dito sa given. So let's count. 1, 2. So twice lang nag-appear ang number 5 dito. So therefore, it is equal to 2 over 10. And ang greatest common factor ng 2 and 10 ay 2. So i-divide natin sila, which is equal to 1 over 5. Therefore, the experimental probability that the sum is 5 is equal to 1 over 5. Thank you, everyone. See you again in our next lesson.